This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. It's straight to the point to respect people's time, and because we know knowledge and wisdom turn to business possibility, and possibility mixed with support and action become reality. In this podcast, we discuss leadership, sales, marketing, operations, team development, quality, and finance to drive sustainable results and everlasting impact to make the world a better place. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Stephen, super excited to have you on the show. Welcome to the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast.
Thank you, Brad. It's brilliant to be here. It's really brilliant. It really is. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so I want to get started with, first of all, where are you in the world?
So I'm in England, across the pond, and I'm in a little quaint city called Plymouth, in the southwest of England. It's a lovely city, 200,000 people, very chilled. Yeah, love it. It's a lovely city, very quiet.
Love it. Appreciate you hopping on across the pond this evening in your time zone. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Stephen, in a few sentences for the people watching and listening, would you be willing to share who you are and what you do? What are you into now?
Right. So, Brad, it's quite easy. I do three things. Okay, and just three things. Just keep it nice and simple. So the first thing is I'm a healthcare entrepreneur. My company is called Blue Cloud Health, and we deal with scalable healthcare investments in Africa. Okay, so every investment opportunity that's scalable, we're in it. Okay, and that's what my company does, Blue Cloud Healthcare. The second thing that I do is I'm an author. I'm a best-selling author. I've written my first book, Pay the Price, and my second one, In Search of Permanence, is coming out next year. And the third thing I do is that I'm a qualified clinical pharmacist. So those are my three things.
Fantastic. So say the name of the books one more time. So you got one release that's already been released, and you got another one coming.
Yeah. So one is called Pay the Price. Very right there with me.
Pay the price. Oh, I love it. Visuals are great.
And the second one is going to be called In Search of Permanence, and that's out in September next year.
Love it. Absolutely. And I love the clarity of that. I do three things, and here's how I do it for, and this is what I do. That's fantastic.
No messing.
Clarity is king, my friend. I love it. Stephen, I've looked at some of your amazing accomplishments, and I celebrate you for those. In all of your endeavors, what do you think is the best thing about being in business?
I love it. I know, Brad, this sounds quite cheesy. Do you say cheesy in the US?
We do.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so this sounds quite cheesy in that I love to make a difference in people's lives, and that primarily is what drives me to do business. I love the fact that I can impact somebody's life in the way that I feel is best, according to my strengths. And being in business for me, that's what obviously you want to make the money, you want to have the time, you want to do what you want to do, and you want to be independent and autonomous and all that stuff. Yeah. But for me, primarily, and I know it sounds quite cheesy, but I really get a kick out of making people's lives better in any way possible. And that's what drives me, to be honest.
I love it. Cheesy as it may be, that is what drives a lot of entrepreneurs. So we want to create lasting change and impact. But I also love what you said there. It's that, but to be able to do that within your strength zone as well. And that's a really, really important point. So I love that you said that, Stephen.
Absolutely. So I think one of your guests said that before in the previous podcast, that you've got to play according to your strengths. Okay, so I know exactly where my strengths are. I know exactly what my weaknesses are. And so if someone comes to say, Stephen, I want you to help me with X, Y, Z, I'll say, no, I love to take your money, love to help you, but I'm not good at that. I'm just going to mess up your business. So I just focus on what I'm good at, stick with that, and it seems to work quite well. It has for the past 10 years, so I must be doing something right.
It's a great point. And so for the seasoned entrepreneurs out there, I know they're saying yes, because it takes a couple years to really fall into your strength zones. And There's a lot of newer entrepreneurs who maybe take on more than they ought to. And so
Exactly.
what you're saying here is really valid. It's a really important
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
focus on the strengths and go ahead and refer out
Yeah.
that's not within your strengths.
Yeah, I think you just got to be humble and know what you're good at and what you're not, and just obviously you want to learn and get better and improve your life. But I think as human beings, some of us are born with some weaknesses, and it's hard to turn those weaknesses into strengths. I mean, I'll be honest, I'll be hands up. I'm not a very organized guy, so if you want to come to me with things like systems, processes, operations, I'm not your guy. I'll tell you straight off, I'm not your guy. You know, if you want to come with me with strategy, big picture thinking, networking, marketing, I'm your guy. So, so I think it's best to know what you're good at and work on that and improve that. Spend more of your efforts improving your strengths rather than putting a whole lot of time and effort in the things that you're not good at. And just
I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to pair well together through this podcast. I'm the systems guy. You're the visionary guy. I love it. This is great stuff.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Stephen.
Yeah, brilliant.
Stephen, we hear from other business owners that sometimes they're getting so much business that the chaos that causes a little bit of chaos or overwhelm for some people. Would you be willing to share your thoughts and experience on that topic?
So this is very relevant because this is where I said it happens a lot in Africa. So in Africa, there's a lot of opportunities because there's so much need, and so there's so much innovation. And so if you're not careful, you realize that when you start doing something, people throw all sort of things at you. And if you're not careful, you just begin to zone. And I've seen it happen to so many entrepreneurs in Africa where they start off for one thing and they go into scoop creep, and then they just begin to mess up. And by the time realize I've met guys who end up in courts because they've done things that they shouldn't do. Some people have become overwhelmed. So I just think right from the beginning, you need to nail down what you are. Okay, so I am healthcare scalable. That's it. So if you come to me and you say, what about a hospital? I'll say no. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at me. Obviously, I'll look at the money, I'll wink, I'll salivate, but I'll say no. Because I know that ultimately that's going to draw me out of what I want to do, and it's going to mess me up. So I think that right from the beginning of your business, obviously you need to pivot. We need to change as time goes on, and that's all important. But I think that we need to, and for me, I think it's focusing on what you want to do from the beginning. And as much as the market allows it, you stick with it. Obviously, you need to diversify or to pivot, and we can talk about that later as time goes on. But if you do that and you know what you're about, then it's very easy to say yes or no. And then obviously as you begin to get better and better at what you do, then you can begin to build a bigger team around what you're doing and become bigger and bigger, and then be known for one thing, rather than trying to do a jack of all trades and then end up being a master of none. So for me, the key is focus. And I say that in three things, how to focus. So I do three things. One, you banish the bad, you let go of the good, embrace the excellence. Simple for me. So you banish the bad, things that you know are not ethical, they're not good, you banish them completely. You let go of the good. Some things are nice, they're lovely to have, but they're not your core thing. You let go of them. And you embrace your excellence. The things that you know are spot on for you, you embrace them and you run with them. So these are the
absolutely
three things.
Love it.
Yeah. Banish the
absolutely
good,
love it.
let go of the good.
Banish the bad is what I hear you saying. Banish the bad, right?
Yeah.
Banish the bad.
Yeah. Banish the bad.
And then the second one was?
Let go of the good.
Let go of the good. So are we letting go of the good in order to harness the great?
And in order to embrace the excellence.
In order to embrace the excellence. I love that. Very well said, Stephen. I absolutely love it. And focus. Look, I am, there's no way I could agree with you more. Focus. Double down on your strengths. Too many entrepreneurs out there. Listen, I'm speaking to you right now. Yes, you, not you, Stephen. Everybody listening and watching. But look, if you've got your hands in 1,000 things, you got to pare down. Focus, as
Yes.
Stephen said, focus and double down on your strengths so that you can serve more people and impact in a greater way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it becomes even more imperative the more, and paradoxically, the more successful you become, the more you need to embrace your excellence. I was reading about Condoleezza Rice, for instance, who was a brilliant pianist. She was a brilliant pianist. She even played for the Queen. But one day she went for a festival and heard a girl play, and I thought, I can't play like that. She let go of that and went to become a Secretary of State, and we all know what she achieved. So I think even the more successful you becomes more and more that you focus and you zone out what you want to do. So
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Great advice. So switching gears here for just a moment. What other successful business owners like yourself, of course, Stephen, ought to be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
Yes. So there's a guy called 𝐿𝐢𝐳𝐵, which is an absolutely amazing guy. He came from Rwanda, Wharton, Rwanda. He came to the UK. He's now living in Plymouth, and he's been absolutely amazing. He's opened business. He's just been an incubator. He's been a stepping stone for loads of businesses. He started his people that are refugees that have no jobs. He's granted them opportunities. Some of them are now open restaurants. Some of them are artists. Some of them are designers. And he's just opened doors for so many people down here in the Southwest. And I don't think he's ever been on a podcast. I don't even know that he knows I'm recommending him. But he's the one guy that I'd love to have you on your podcast. And I'm definitely going to drag him tomorrow and say, look, you have to be on the Unlimited Business Wisdom podcast. So I'm going to get him tomorrow. I'm going to get him and drag him down.
I love it. Sounds like he's creating lots of impact. I'd love to connect with him.
Absolutely,
I'd love to highlight.
Absolutely.
I love it. And you're going to have to spell his name for me.
I will. 𝐿𝐢𝐵, 𝐽𝐴BO, 𝐿𝐢𝐵, and 𝐵UTERA, 𝐵UTERA. So 𝐿𝐢𝐵. It's from Rwanda.
I love it. I love that. I love that highlighting other people as well. Just pay it forward. We get the opportunity to do that. So
Absolutely.
thanks for describing what he does as well. It's a beautiful thing. Stephen, let's get to you. Let's get to the crux of this, right? So I know you have a lot to offer in this space, and I imagine it's challenging to pick, just one or two topics or maybe three, but what piece of wisdom would you share with other business owners?
So this is quite simple, brother. I don't want to sound morbid, okay, or like a death knell, but I specialize in pain, okay, which is really, really, and I tell you why. I specialize in pain because I wrote the book Pay the Price for one reason. Okay, we have so many podcasts on entrepreneurship, so many books on entrepreneurship, so many seminars. We even have schools of entrepreneurship, but still, last time I checked, 90% of businesses are still failing after 10 years. That's got all the information available. So I thought to myself, why? It took me 10 years when I started 𝐿𝐢𝐵 to get my first paycheck. So I had to struggle for 10 years. And I only got my first paycheck. So I formed 𝐿𝐴 in 2012 with a colleague after business school. And for 10 years, I had no paycheck. I had my first paycheck in 2021. It took me 10 years to be able to get that paycheck. And this, I could talk about this for ages, but there's one thing that gets entrepreneurs to fail, and that's pain. And there are 4 kinds of pain. So I did a lot of research on this. I spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I realized that there were 4 kinds of pain that floor entrepreneurs at every time. Okay, and I've classified them. So in my book, I talk about the flat response pain model, and basically there's red flag pain, and hang with me, Brad. Just hang with me for a minute. There's red flag pain. There's amber flag pain. There's green flag pain, and there's white flag pain. So there's 4. Okay, and I'm going to explain what I mean by all these kind of pain. So there's red flag, amber flag, green flag, and white flag. Okay. So red flag is what I call the pain of self-sabotage. Okay. So I'm going to be real honest here. I know you want to keep it real. I want to be real with you. My red flag pain was pornography. It flew me every time. And until I had a bad deal, because I had over the 10-year period where I started 𝐿𝐴𝐵 before I got my first paycheck, I had over 250 rejections or people saying no. No, Stephen, it's a bad idea. No, it's not going to happen. And I got so depressed. I went bankrupt. I nearly lost my marriage. I fell ill. And so I found myself very lonely and depressed. And I went to pornography. That became a crutch. And that made me feel worse. It destroyed my self-esteem. And it nearly floored me. Until one day I discovered a company called 𝐄𝐥𝐢𝐻𝐳 and the counselor that saved me. So the one thing that people get into as entrepreneurs is the red flag pain, which is, it could be alcoholism, it could be gambling, it could be procrastination, it could be having an affair, it could be all the stuff that we know are not good. And one speaker said something that I love. He said, we are one step away from stupid. You know, a red flag pain is one step away from being stupid. You know what you're doing is wrong, but for some reason we think that we'll go away with it. You know, and I call it red flag pain because when you're driving and you get to a red flag or a red traffic light, you stop. So red flag means you get to a red flag, you stop. So what you're doing, you just need to stop it and find ways to get help if you're doing red flag pain. Okay. Now the second
before you switch to the second one, no, that's great. I love what you shared. So red flag pain, self-sabotage, when we're relying on, because we all have these caps. Right. So we just keep hitting this cap, keeps hitting this. So how do you react in that situation? And many of us do numb ourselves or turn to alcohol or turn to whatever it is for. So we need to identify that and then go get help for that thing. So red flag pain, super important. So highest level there. All right,
100%,
please.
100%. So next one is amber flag pain. So amber flag pain is the pain of waiting. Okay. Now, Brad, some things just take time. You can do all the research in the world. You can be the best person there is in entrepreneurs. Some things will just take time, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, somebody said to me once, which is funny, that you cannot have a baby fast by impregnating 9 women. Okay, if you impregnate 9 women, it will still take you 9 months to have a baby. You know, it doesn't matter how fertile you are. It doesn't matter how fertile the woman is. It doesn't matter how young you are. It still takes 9 months to fully conceive a baby. Same as amber flag pain. Amber flag pain, some things just take time. And some of us wait and think, oh, this is not going to happen. And then we give up. Okay. The only solution to amber flag pain is waiting. And sometimes you just have to wait. And a lot of entrepreneurs give up. They don't wait long enough to see their fruits. And then they fail. Okay. So that's the second thing.
Absolutely love it. I want to paraphrase that one as well. So amber flag, and this is an important one. So to you entrepreneurs out there, I'm speaking to you, like sometimes this is a law of the universe. There's a gestation period. Sometimes you just have to wait.
Absolutely.
I know you're listening to me right now. You go, I don't want to hear that. So you already have some resistance, but Stephen, that's a great point. So amber flag pain.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to wait through the gestation period. That's great.
You just have to wait out. You just have to wait out. The third pain that we go through is green flag pain. Now, green flag pain is the pain that you hear when people tell you stuff. Okay, so your friends or your hero or your investors, people tell you, Brad, this idea you have is a bad idea. It's not going to work. Okay. And you hear this thing over and over and over, and you begin to tell yourself this thing, it's not going to work. You begin to believe it. Okay. And once you believe that pain and you hear that pain, you begin to think, oh, I'm not worth it. I'm not going to be the next Steve Jobs. I'm not going to be the next Elon Musk, whoever your hero is. I'm not going to be the next person. So I'm going to give up. Okay. And because you don't believe in yourself. I call it green flag pain because when you're driving and you get to the green flag, you don't stop. Green, right? You just keep going. Sometimes you have an arrow that goes right. It's still green, but it means you have to pivot. Okay, so that arrow is the pivoting arrow, but you must still keep going. So anytime you hear people saying you're not good enough, you can't make it. This is a bad idea. It could be an investor. It could be your mentor. It could be your coach. It could be yourself. It could be your friends, even your spouse, telling you this is not possible. This will not happen. Many entrepreneurs believe them. And they stop what they're doing and they give up and they fail. And so green flag pain is also an important one. When you hear the green flag, you see a green flag, it just means you keep going. You just go. And that's another kind of pain. And then the last thing.
So No, I just want to paraphrase that one too. So
Yeah.
green flag. So there's many roads that we come across. And I relate to this one. This one speaks to me pretty
Oh,
deeply. I've had a lot of people say, no, don't do that. Do this, do this, do that, do that. No, 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 no. You can't do that. You can't do this. No, you shouldn't show up this way. So, Stephen, I hear you, and this resonates with me. I've had so many people since throughout my entrepreneurial community, and what's actually served me really well, because sometimes I've taken that and I've taken their advice and I've second guessed myself. But what's really served me well is when I just said, no, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to keep pointing in that direction, or you're going to find me caught dead pointing in that direction, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. So thank you for that. Cause you just got to keep going. Just it's green. You just got to keep going. Make under, Absolutely. Over, on, around, whatever, through, whatever it is, you just got to keep going. So great points.
So you got to keep going. And then
the last one.
The last pain is called white flag pain. So white flag pain is the pain that happens to you due to the unfairness of life. Okay. So I'll give you an example from my own life. So one day I had my lovely car. I was finally able to afford a lovely car, Brad. It was a lovely car. And I was driving happily to my next consulting job. And I had an epilepsy fit. Out of nowhere, I had epilepsy. Nowhere. Just came out in the car. I crashed the car, ended up in hospital. This was in 2012. I was able to go free without any fits for 4 years. 2016, my wife had a lovely car. I was able to drive again. Started driving 2, 3, 4 months, crashed the car again, had a fit in the car. So the car, 2 cars destroyed, gone. Okay. That's my white flag pain, epilepsy. Is it fair? No. Is it humiliating? Yes. Sometimes I can run in, have a fit. I remember once I had a meeting with some colleagues. Right in the middle of the meeting, I had a fit. I was on the floor foaming. They didn't call an ambulance. And I came to just as they were about to call an ambulance. That's my white flag pain, epilepsy. Some people have white flag pain. It could be anything. It could be for that you're a woman. It could be for that you're black. It could be for that you're Asian. It could be the fact that you're too short. It could be something that's unfair, And it's so easy to cry the victim. And I know that. I cried the victim for 3, 4 years. But I had a choice. The epilepsy wasn't going away. I'd seen doctors. I'm still heavily medicated for it. It sometimes goes. Sometimes I can go for months or without having a fit. But one day, just out of nowhere, the last one I had was 2 months ago. I was having a lovely shower, and I found myself on the ground. And my wife just came running up to me, had to rescue me, and I really injured my back. And actually, the white flag pain is what gave birth to the book, because I was thinking I had to write a book. Again, green flag pain. People were saying to me, "Oh, what are you going to do? Who do you think you are to write a book? What do you think you're the next Jim Collins?" And people were laughing at me. But I had the book written down in my journal. And then one day, I was hoovering upstairs. I thought I'm going to be a lovely modern husband. Do some housework. I was hoovering upstairs with a brand new Hoover. I had a massive fit, epileptic fits. I fell down the stairs with the Hoover. I crashed into the radiator. I passed out. I had really bad injuries. I was unconscious. But then suddenly I saw the book. I was writing it in my head. It was a really, really weird thing that happened then. But so I was on the floor and my wife was screaming. I have 2 teenage kids. They were screaming around. And all I could see was a book. So I thought I have to write this book. So I got my wounds dressed, saw the doctor, got it all sorted. I sat down, took a pen and paper, took my brand new Mac, and within 4 months, the book was out. Nice. So it is a white flag pain that gave birth. So if I hadn't had epilepsy, if I didn't have that fits, that book will still not be here. And that book came out. It was a #1 bestseller on Amazon for 18 categories. It broke all records with the publisher, and it's just been phenomenal. And I thought that book came out with my white flag pain. So you never know what your white flag pain can do for you. And sometimes we get these things and we surrender. We think, oh, this is bad. It's unjust. It's not. I don't deserve this. Brad, life is unfair. The moment you realize that, you imbibe it in your spirit, in your heart, and you know that life is unfair, the sooner you're going to get to your destination. So these are the 4 things that I go through.
So white flag. Talk to me about white flags. What do you call it again?
So white flag pain is white flag. So I call it white flag And I tell you, I don't know whether you got time for the story, but one day I went to Nairobi, Kenya, and we went to this lovely restaurant. We're going on this consulting job, and I went to this lovely restaurant, and then there were 7 meats. Okay, so you go in there, you sit down, they give you a little plate, and they serve you meat, and again, you have these guys walking. It's really odd. They have these like skewers of meats, of all sorts of meats. I mean, there was like crocodile meats, bush, whatever. So you keep eating the meats, and anytime you finish your plate, they bring you more until you have, and they give you a white flag, and you put that white flag on your plates, and then they realize that, okay, I surrender. You don't want any more meat, and they stop bringing the meat. So the white flag is a flag of surrender. Okay, so when you say white flag, you surrender. So that white flag means that it's a pain of surrender. You surrender to the fact that you have some impediments in your life that are unfair, or some things. It could be your race, it could be your gender, it could be an illness, it could be the way you look, it could be the way you talk, it could be anything that's an impediment to your success. You can't change it. It's what you are. You surrender to it, but it doesn't stop you from going on. So
absolutely love it.
Yeah,
so the white flag is the things we don't have control over.
Yes.
We need to pause and not be a victim, but become a victor by surrender. That's what I hear you saying.
Surrender, exactly. You surrender to the fact that that's a bad thing.
Hey, I want to be 6'5", but I don't have much control over that. So I guess I just need to surrender to that and realize I'm not.
Yeah, it might be a shorter person in the room. I mean, like I said, for me, mine was epilepsy. So it's humiliating when it happens to you. But I tell you what, Saren, the best thing that I did is one day I woke up in the morning, I thought, well, I have epilepsy. I've done everything I can. I still believe that one day I'll be better, I'll be well. But I'm not going to wait till I get well. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And that realization of it, that surrender, changed my life. Literally changed my life. And
what I love that you're saying about this white flag pain is, even though it's an impediment, it's a blocker, it's a barrier, it's unfair, all these things that you've described through these great stories you shared, even though there's some blockers and barriers there, you were able to turn that blocker or barrier, uncontrollable as it may be, into a very positive thing. I mean, that's where your book came from. So I love what you're saying there, is how you can flip the script.
Yeah, you can flip the script. You absolutely can flip the script. And I think that's where a lot of us come. And I've worked with so many entrepreneurs from across the world, the Middle East, the West, Africa, especially in Africa and the Middle East, where a lot of people start with a lot of disadvantages. I come from a poor family. I don't have any money, or all the stuff that you always hear. Yes, they're white flags. It's sad that you are born in a country where things are unstable and things are not going well for you. It's not right. It's not just. It's unjust. But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to surrender to it? Are you going to just say, okay, right, this is me, I can't do anything? And I've seen so many entrepreneurs hit by flag pain, and they complain and moan and become victims. They go to a store, buy a huge violin, and play the violin the whole night and do nothing. So and that will not serve you anything. You best off accepting what you got and running with it. And
I love it.
And those that do well. Those that don't become victims.
I love it. I love what you did here. And so you've taken, and I'm looking forward to reading the book as well. And we'll give information out on that in just a moment. But I love what you did is you took these painful things that people experience and you put them in buckets and you explained them in a way that we can filter through them and say, hey, here's what I'm experiencing right now. I need to be able to put some thought into that and come up with a strategy. And some of these, as we know, and I want to encourage you, if you're listening and watching up to this point, then some of these things you're going to need help with. Others of them, maybe you can work out on your own. Maybe you can solve them on their own. But with some of these, I'm sure they run deep. And so I want to encourage you, if you're listening and watching, Stephen's right here. And so if you can identify what kind of pain you're experiencing, then you can begin to reach out for some help. And let's face it, entrepreneurs are stubborn. They're a stubborn bunch.
Yes.
So if you can put them in the appropriate bucket, then that's going to enable you, empower you to say, hey, you know what, maybe I do need help with this particular one, but this one, I think I'm going to work out it on my own. So this is brilliant, Stephen. I absolutely love it. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And these things, so in the entrepreneurship journey, I break it down into 3. You have what you call the honeymoon phase, the formative phase and the legacy phase. Now, for this flat response to work, you need to make sure you know that your honeymoon phase. What's your honeymoon phase? Your honeymoon phase is the stuff you read about in books. Okay, you need to make sure you know yourself, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. That's you as a person. You need to have a purpose. Why am I doing this? Okay, and the third thing that you have to use is your passion. So your honeymoon phase is you, the person, the 3 P's: person, purpose, passion. These 3 things need to be nailed down. Otherwise, if you don't nail these 3 things down and you hate the pain, you will fail. Because you need to believe that what I'm doing here is for this purpose. You need to have the passion for it. You need to have love what you do. I love Africa. People complain about Africa. People complain that Africa is a tough place to be. And yes, it is. But I just love the continent, Brad. When I get there, I'm alive. You know, I can go. People go there. They cry. They want to come back. I go to Africa. I'm alive. Some people. I've heard you, Brad, talk about systems and processes. Some people have systems. They see a thing and think, oh, how can I get a system in place? That's your passion. So if you don't have these 3 things in place, you as a person, your purpose and your passion, which is your honeymoon phase, the pain is what you call the formative phase. And every entrepreneur will hit the formative phase. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you are Barack Obama. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you are who you are. You will hit the red. You will hit the pain parts.
Absolutely. I know everybody listening and watching is saying, yeah, I know what that feels like.
Yes. And the people that fail are the people that don't have a good honeymoon period. Why do I call it a honeymoon period? It's like when you get married, you go on a honeymoon. Why do you go on a honeymoon? I remember we had ours, and we had when I went through the red flag pain, I made some stupid decisions, and I had to go to counseling for marriage. And I'm being very vulnerable with you and open with you here, because I think sometimes on this podcast we are not real. We don't share the real stuff, and people hit through the things. I wouldn't want to be real with you, Brad. I'm not going to get killed by some of my friends for saying this, but I want to get real. And when we hit a point in our marriage where I nearly had a divorce, I had to go through counseling. The first thing the counselor asked me is, what was it like when you first married? What was it like in your honeymoon? And that took us right back to the days, those good old days. And we thought to ourselves, right, yes, we do love ourselves here. We're going to give this another shot. And that question by our counselor saved the marriage. It's the same thing when you hit pain. You need to remember, why am I doing this? Do I love what I'm doing? Who am I as a person? If you have these 3 things nailed down, it is likely that if you go through the pain, you will come at the end. If you don't have those 2 things laid down, you will fail. I don't care who you are.
Clarity of the person. You need the passion, the deep passion, because let's face it, if you don't have the passion, you're not going to make it very far when you get the blockers and barriers. And then you have to have the purpose too. So you're going to be able to stand on that purpose as the substance that it is. So I love what you're sharing, Stephen. This is great. What I love about what you shared are a couple of things, and I really want to highlight and celebrate you for this. One, it just stands out to me like no other, and that is your authenticity, your honesty, and your humility. The stories that you've shared are real. They're not superficial. They're real, deep-hearted things. And so I appreciate you being real and sharing this with others. You're right. A lot of people do hide some stuff when we talk on a superficial level. So I appreciate you, and I want to highlight that. I want to celebrate you for that. So thank you for being real. And what else stands out to me is just the level of service that you're giving. So you have this book, and a lot of people just say, "Yeah, go buy my book," but here you are explaining these things at a deeper level. So I want to celebrate you for that as well. So thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you.
Before we move to how people can reach out to you when they hear this and they watch it and they're like, I have to reach out to them. Before we do that, I want to ask you one last question. So great actionable information, Stephen. I believe, and I hope you share this belief, I suspect you will, but I believe that we work to live, not live to work. Even though so many entrepreneurs work so hard, we do work to live, right? So I love to ask this question. What's the most fun vacation you've ever had?
It's a brilliant question, actually, Brad. And I have to credit my wife. I have a beautiful, lovely wife, and she's made sure that we go to vacation every year.
Nice. To
different places. So I know it sounds crazy. I'm British. I'm Ghanaian, but we hadn't been to Ghana, which is where my from my heritage is from, for years and years with my kids. So in August we went to Ghana, and it was an absolutely lovely holiday. We just had the most fun ever. We went to this lovely hotel. We rode horses. We went on boats. We fondled crocodiles. We had snakes. We managed to throw in a few tours of the slave trade where the slaves were, and it was an absolutely lovely holiday. We just absolutely enjoyed it. We loved every minute of it. I came back broke because we spent so much money. But I'll do it again in a heartbeat. And it was lovely to reconnect with my roots and the roots of my wife and kids. And it was absolutely brilliant, and we loved it. So yeah, I went to Ghana, and actually a year prior was the 400th anniversary of the first slaves. I think it was 1619. And so we just went after I think 1.5 million Black Americans went to Ghana. They called it the year of the return, and it marked the 400th year. And so the country was booming. It was buzzing. There were so many people from the US who wanted to obviously reconnect to their roots. So we made so many new friends out there. It was just a wonderful, lovely, brilliant holiday. And I just came up with a new zest for life. And yeah, we loved it. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely love hearing that for so many reasons, Stephen. Again, thanks for sharing that. I mean, look, I'm no expert like you are in that area, in the country itself. It's misunderstood by a lot of people. But I do know this. I have been to the continent. So I haven't been to Ghana, but I have been to the continent. And there are so many beautiful places there. So I love hearing a different perspective than what some others hear in the world. I think it gets a little bit of a bad rap. So I love hearing the positivity that you're sharing. It's a beautiful place. There's so much to experience. So I love hearing.
And what amazed me about Africa, Brad, is, and I don't know what it is, but Africa is the most entrepreneurial continent in the world. 26% of women in Africa are entrepreneurs. And it's just the sheer resilience, and that's where I got most of the inspiration for Pay the Price. I love the book. A lot of the stories I share in the book are African stories, and I felt that when I went to business school, we learned a lot about. I went to one of the best business schools in the world, Warwick, and we learned about Steve Jobs, and we learned about Nokia and Amazon and Twitter and all these big stories, but and we in Africa had to learn the story, which is fine. I mean, I loved it. But I went to Africa and I saw the kind of innovation and entrepreneurship. I mean, I'll just share just one, if I may.
Sure.
So there was one day there was a company just came up with a stupid idea of flying drones. Okay, and this company called Zipline, they fly drones of medicines from one city to another. In Rwanda, and so because the roads are so bad, and in Ghana as well, the roads are so bad, there are no cars or drivers, or I mean, there are cars, but the roads are so bad, and by the time you can get medicine supplies from one place to another, the person will be dead. And so they came up with this innovative idea of flying unmanned drones. Now, where in the world will somebody come up with that idea? So they fly drones. So you have a drone in one city, they stick the medicine to it, they give it a sat nav. The drone goes straight to the hospital unmanned and drops it there. And within half an hour, the drone travels really fast. Within half an hour, it's in 4 hours away or 3 hours away in another city. And this is kind of entrepreneurship that you don't hear about. And I can give you hundreds of stories of people who have innovated in really trying circumstances to come up with ingenious ways of solving problems. And I've not seen that anywhere else in the world. The innovation in Africa. It's just superb.
I love it. I love hearing so you just cut right to the core and the crux of the very reason why I do this podcast, my friend.
Amazing.
Because look, you can get the big books and you can read about, all the big names, but how do we connect with one another at a personal level all over the world?
100%.
So I love that you shared this. Stephen, thank you so much for all your stories, for your authenticity, and your just being real here on the podcast. When somebody watches this and they listen to it and they say, I have to reach out to this guy and learn more and connect, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So I think the best way is my website, which is my name, www.stephenrj.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think I caught you there and I grabbed you quickly before you could go. So I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I'm active on Facebook as well. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. So, but the three top places to reach me would be my website, LinkedIn, or Facebook. So those are my.
I love it. And I want to encourage them to go to your website because you have your book is front and center there. You have a great, very clear, crystal clear website, and it looks fantastic. So I want to encourage everybody to
thank you so much.
Check out the website, and we'll have the link below. So Stephen, thank you so much for your time. I know you took a chunk out of your day to be here to serve others. So thank you very much. And I celebrate you. Thanks for being on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for being a wonderful host. You made my life so easy because you just ask wonderful questions. You're so easy going in. And thank you for doing this. And I love listening to your podcast. Thank you so much.
This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. If you're looking for more on leadership, sales, marketing, or operations to drive team development, higher quality, and high-level sustainable profits, we encourage you to join the Built for Brilliance community on Facebook or reach out to us about one of our mastermind groups, coaching or consulting, or even fractional COO services. You can reach us at buildbrilliance.net/contact. We thank you for listening, for sharing the show, and appreciate your rating and reviews, as this makes more shows possible. Thanks for joining us.